Good morning, Mid-Michigan. And we're stretching out here a little bit. Grand Rapids, welcome to Continuous Miracle right here on WGLM 106.3. Big Rapids, welcome to Continuous Miracle 106.3 WGLM. We are glad you folks are all aboard this morning. Got Mike in here, sidekick.
Hey.
His usual pleasant self.
I am.
Making all his discoveries. And enjoying himself along the way. And we're glad you're here most of all. We've got a guest with us here this morning, Mr. Mike H. He was instrumental in putting together the symposium that we had here 2 weeks ago now. And, Mike's instrumental in doing a lot of things in the recovery community in the Mid-Michigan area. So we're grateful he's here with us today. Known Mike for a long time. Hi.
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
A long time. Yeah. Yeah, I know of his efforts throughout the community, recovery community throughout Mid-Michigan area. And you're in Grand Rapids now too, isn't that right?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a couple houses in Grand Rapids, one in Newaygo, and then 3 here in Greenville.
Right. Stretching out into Kent County. So growth.
Yep.
There's growth in the recovery community.
Onward and upward.
Yes, sir. Doing good and being good. Pays dividends.
Yep, it does.
People are getting better all around us. And it's because of the efforts of folks like Mike and the folks at Semron, our sponsor, and who put so much time and energy into the folks who are in the recovery community that we never see or hear from, except, like on the show. We come across them pretty regular. And I thank them for all their endeavors because so many people are profiting from all those folks' work behind the scenes to help folks like us, just like you. And it's a phenomenal thing to be a part of. Mike, you got something on your mind?
Oh, I don't have a lot, but I do work behind the scenes. Well, wait a minute.
That's not unusual.
Just because I don't have anything to say doesn't mean I won't, okay? And I'm just going to point out that I work behind the scenes somewhat, so to speak, for Mike at Randy's house.
Yes.
And I see a lot of those successes that you're talking about. People getting better and becoming part of the community and helping from that point forward.
Productive members of society.
That one right there, boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get to see that stuff in real time today. And that's the miracle that we talk about here on this show, is a continuous miracle. Folks come into the facility and not in the best condition. And then after some time and some energy put forth on their part, they leave and go on to be active participants in our communities. And it's a real miracle to watch. Some folks like to call it, they like to watch flowers grow and things of that nature. And but to see God work in real time is a miracle. And that's some of the things we get to participate in today.
I don't know if I ever heard anybody call me a flower growing, but I like that idea.
No, nobody ever has.
Okay, just checking.
I'd like to remind everybody that not everybody heals at the same rate. So for 1 or 2 success stories, there's a lot of things that don't look like success on paper, but they turn to a success over time.
Right.
Planting seeds?
Planting seeds.
Planting seeds.
Back to the flower analogy.
Yeah.
That's really what we do, is plant seeds, and you water them, and sometimes they grow miraculously and they become this beautiful thing, and other times it's just a process.
Yeah, it's work.
It's a lot of work, and not everybody that shows up is willing to put in the work right off the bat, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah, recovery can be, especially early recovery, is hard work. We have to work at this stuff.
We come in with a lot of preconceived notions that are not real.
Peculiar ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sometimes we got to discard some of those.
Yeah, we have to disseminate what's true and what's false.
Right. And that's a process.
Yeah.
It is.
We're going to be talking about the symposium, folks, but I got to tell you that working for Mike, when these people come in, we're talking about, we do something called the wellness plan. Review what's sort of expected, so to speak, in the near future. And there is a lot of work involved in what they're going to be doing. Some aren't quite expecting that. Preconceived notions.
Yeah. Well, it's all about doing new stuff, getting new results, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, trying something different. So, back to symposium, though, Mike. How many years? I know I travel a lot, and I've missed some of these. So, how many years has the symposium been going now?
I think this was actually the 11th year, but it might have been the 10th.
Okay. And
It's
that's a consortium of.
yes, it's a consortium of, well, different people host, but it's really the same body of people that pull the symposium off every year. You've got all of the agencies from around, but I've not to brag, but Randy's House has been a big part of it for really almost since the conception. Before we were actually really involved, we had volunteers that showed up and did a lot of the work, and we were more volunteer-led organization back then than we are now, because funding has changed, and everybody that comes into our organization has to get a job quickly.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a positive, not a negative. The volunteer, though, in the beginning, you guys were kind of a catalyst to that, you said.
Yeah.
And then I found that volunteering, being voluntold,
Yeah.
voluntelling.
There you go.
The whole, it takes all of it. And then when you've got willing participants who want to not only help themselves but help others, it makes for a kind of a special work environment. Let me put it that way, because they're all pulling towards one common goal.
Yep. The last couple of years, we've been in charge of lining up the venue, supplying the food.
The taco truck was a killer.
Yeah. That was good stuff this year. That was nobody really knew that was coming. We did that kind of as a surprise. That was
Pleasant surprise.
privately funded. So
Pleasant surprise.
yeah. I have a few connections in the food truck business, so I kind of pulled some strings and cashed in some favors, and
There they were.
there they were.
Then Mike and I happened to be working at the event, and I had to drag him off the taco truck to get some work done.
That was ugly. I'd found a treasure.
I said, Mike, we're not camping here.
I said, you might not be,
Right.
but I got stuff to do over here. But thank you for that, pulling a few strings, Mike. It was privately funded. I appreciate what you did. Yeah.
Sober Eats was the
Oh, yeah, in case
was the
somebody's looking
company,
for
yeah.
a taco truck.
And they do a lot of recovery events, so
Okay.
you can find them online. That's about what I know, because I don't mess with the whole online thing a whole lot. So
I try and avoid it myself.
I don't have a Facebook page or anything like that. Never have.
We need to get you out there. Speaking of that, Facebook. Hey, folks, we're on Facebook today and YouTube. So welcome to YouTube. This is our initial broadcast, right, on YouTube?
We've already got one episode up. Episode 26 is up on YouTube right now for
Okay.
anybody that wants to view it.
Oh, okay. Episode 26 did go up on YouTube last week, I understand. So, yeah. It's not our debut. This is our second run at YouTube. So,
You mean I was supposed to look real pretty last time?
welcome to all those folks. Yeah, try harder. Well, we got faces for radio, that's for sure.
It's the second one that counts
That's right. Every time.
every time. That's what they say in AA.
Hey, Darren's telling me we're going to take a little break here, folks. So we'll be right back. We hope you will too, and we'll continue our conversation, Mike, about the symposium and what was put out there for the people to become a little more educated. And it was a wonderful event. We're going to tell you about it here in a minute.
Yeah, we had our attendance was 84,
Okay.
so which is really up.
A mobile
From the last couple
mammography
years.
station is coming to Morley. That'll be Saturday, May 17th at 9 a.m.
How many registered?
151 East 7th Street.
Not very many. I mean, we only
So
had
you-
Yeah, there was only like
Yeah, that registration
10
doesn't
or,
work. And
10 or 12
recovery
pre-registrations. Not very many.
Even AA will tell you that. You know, they do the World
I
Service
tried to
Center.
pre-register off the website thing, the link I had, and it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother with that.
Pardon?
I wouldn't bother with that. We registered like we registered Mike to be on the show with a text. And then it took a
Right, but if they're looking for
Yeah, and then had to call me to get me here.
yeah, but if they're looking for pre-registration at that event and their pre-registration form didn't work, that's relevant about something. But I'm saying I tried to click on it, it wouldn't work.
There you get one of the girls after that.
Yeah. I was going anyway. It didn't disappoint me, but
Isn't it nice not have to do everything today?
yeah.
You got a girl for that?
Got a few. Just hired she's a former participant. Still a participant on some levels, but she's doing a wonderful job.
Slight chance for
Good
rain
idea.
showers later Sunday. Otherwise,
Give 'em a
mostly
job,
cloudy and
turn 'em
breezy
loose.
with a high of
Absolutely.
63. Rain
Who
showers
might that
likely
be?
for this evening and
Stephanie.
overnight.
Okay.
Gusty winds and a low around 46.
I was talking to her a
50-50
month ago
shot for rain
about
showers
her
on
hip
Monday
surgery,
with a high near 62.
and I said maybe you
That
should
chance
see what it's going
continues
to
on
take for
Monday
you to
night
do
with a
some
low
kind of
around
work in
48.
a sentient
More rain on
environment.
Tuesday with a high
And she
near
said, "Oh no, I
66.
can't. I got to." Well,
Partly
next thing
cloudy
you know,
skies on Tuesday night with a low around
There she is.
46.
Emily's telling her how to do stuff on
Now,
whatever.
more of the music you love on WGLM.
It's part of the wellness plan, recognizing that there's alternatives.
Scott, Mike, and Mike here back with you on Continuous Miracle. And before the break, we were talking a little bit about the symposium that took place here 2 weeks ago in beautiful downtown Greenville that we were all blessed to be a part of. And there was a featured speaker, and I can let Mike tell you a little bit about that and how he wrangled this featured speaker. And he's a dynamic man. You might have heard him a week or two ago. We had him on the show, Mr. Gary Kimball. Very informative, very educational, and helped a whole bunch of people understand a little bit more about the disease of addiction while we were all present and available and eating tacos.
He stirred some things up in a healthy way.
He did. Well, he's a very informative man. So how'd you go about that, Mike? The behind the scenes.
You know, I've known Gary for years. He used to do a play around, well, it was nationwide, but he used to do a play called Pass It On. And he played.
And that's an AA thing. For
Yeah,
those
that's a-
who-
yeah.
who don't understand that language. Pass it on is what we try and do within the program of AA. Ask folks if you get a little healthier here, why don't you try and pass that on and help somebody else. So that's what the play was based upon, correct?
Yeah, yep. And so now I've kept that was 10 years ago, and I've kept in close contact with Gary ever since, and I've been in a position to hire him a couple times to come and speak, and yeah, he was available to come out here this year, and we got him out here, and he actually came and he stayed at my farm with me, and
Wait a minute, you got a farm?
I do have a farm.
What do you do out there?
I wake up grateful every morning. That's what I do.
Probably a good start.
And some people are getting better there.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So yeah, we he stayed out at the farm, and he came in and shared graciously with everyone, and I think he did a really good job of presenting on Saturday. Like you said, there's no shortages of stories
Oh,
with,
no.
with Gary. I mean, he's been doing the recovery thing since the '90s, and before that, I mean, he let himself into a position of recovery through years of hardcore addiction.
Right. Yeah, I'm familiar with his journey.
Yeah,
And very accomplished man, though. And I find that with a lot of people who come in to recovery program, they're very pretty well-rounded people once they sober up. I mean, Gary was an ordained priest. He became
Yeah.
Episcopal.
priest,
Episcopal, yeah.
Episcopal priest. Yeah, a doctorate. Well, I assumed his knowledge about the brain chemistry.
I don't think he has a doctorate.
No, not a
No,
doctor.
no.
I assume he's got some letters there, but I mean,
Yeah, he's got
look
letters.
look at the accomplishments that this man, undertook
Yeah, absolutely.
after he became well.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah,
Instead of what he'd presented to the world previous to that.
yeah. To go from stone cold junkie to to what he is today is a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, for any of us, I never would have believed that my life would be what it is today. You couldn't.
You would have shortchanged yourself. wouldn't
Yeah, you couldn't have convinced me. I thought I got better in AA, and I thought AA worked for everybody else, but it didn't work for me.
You were wrong again.
And I was wrong again. 'Cause
There's a lot that goes on. That's okay.
I've seen-
I'm afflicted with it too.
I've seen a lot of that going on.
yeah, well, I watched it go on with you, Mike, for some time. If we're going to be real honest here.
Oh, it's pretty entertaining with him. Though.
Oh, boy.
Oh, really? Tell us some more, Mike.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you something about
Oh,
Gary. And he pointed out that he'd never written a play before, and he was allowed to write a play, and that's where you were talking about that Pass It On as a two-man play that he wrote about the start of AA and Bill W. and Dr. Bob's interaction.
Yeah, and that was a whole production. He didn't just take that around the United States.
No.
He went around the globe, right?
Absolutely.
Around the
Yeah.
globe with this play that he had written, from being a stone cold junkie to writing a play, traveling the world, presenting this piece of work to audiences around the world.
Yeah, and I think
I
in
call that
today's
pretty accomplished.
yeah, I think in today's world it just became too much. And as he aged and
Matured.
yeah, it became too much, and so he stopped doing it.
Yeah.
Consequently, I'll bet all of his props and stuff like that are still put up somewhere, though.
Oh, I'm sure. If he wanted to reconstitute that
Yeah.
with some different actors, I'm sure he could.
Yeah,
But that was the gentleman who was our featured, or your featured speaker
Mhm.
at the symposium. And what a blessing to have him here,
yes, yep.
in the mid-Michigan area. And he stuck around for a few days. He wasn't just a
Yeah, he
fly
didn't.
in, fly out.
He didn't fly out until Monday.
Yeah.
We had him in the whole day on Sunday. He came in and he did the radio show, and then he was out at 419.
Yeah.
And he did. He was out there pretty much all day long.
You know why he was out there? He told us that you need to work the steps quickly and often, and he had to go out and remind a few folks how it was done.
Huh, imagine that.
He had this great big presentation about brain chemistry and everything, and he boiled it right down to do the steps quickly and often.
Absolutely.
Simple message for a simple guy like me. I like it.
Yep. Same thing it says in the big book. It says that, none of that's new news.
Right,
that's
we're
all been there
reinventing the
since-
wheel. Yeah.
Yeah, been there since the late 30s.
Yeah. But I noticed a lot of people were talking about his part about telling us about brain chemistry and things, neuroscience about it. And the real message for a guy like me was do the steps quickly and often.
Yeah.
And that's what I need to be reminded.
I've always struggled with the the whole information piece. I get lost in when you start talking about brain chemistry and
Oh,
stuff.
a lot of folks do. We're not-
I'm hearing Charlie Brown speaker.
Yeah. I know that guy.
Yeah. So yeah, and you know, for me, I like the meat and potato stuff. I just like to get right down to brass tacks.
Yeah, what can I do?
Yeah, what can I do to help myself?
Right.
What can I do to help my fellow man?
Yeah. What can I do? That's always been
Yeah.
a question presented. What can you do?
Yeah.
Or what are you doing?
Well, in the process of understanding brain chemistry, I know enough now to get at it quickly. Do the steps quickly and often. That'll
Quickly
change
and
it.
often. Huh.
Yeah.
Where'd you learn that, Mike?
In AA, somewhere like 10 years ago when you were looking at me thrashing and flopping about. Right in there I learned it, but I didn't want to practice it right
No,
away.
somebody slapped your medulla.
Oh yeah, he's trying to tell us about brain parts, and you're going wah wah wah. It's an amalgam, and it gets inflamed with my alcohol slapping it.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Good. See, we are becoming educated.
But you translate that science into what the AA book told me. I was restless, irritable, and discontent, and it showed.
Yes, it did.
Mike is a voracious reader.
Oh. Yeah, folks, I'm reading a great one now called The Body Keeps Score, and it goes into great detail about that chemistry. But somewhere in there it pointed out to me why some people have anxiety attacks, and they're so common in people in AA. We're trying stuff
just
new.
in the general public, I work with some folks who have anxiety attacks, and it's not just in the recovery community; it's out in the community. Period.
Yeah, so I get to work with these people. Now I have a little bit better understanding of the why and how of how an anxiety attack comes on, and you're never going to change it. You just have to try to be prepared for when those things happen.
It's interesting. When we intake a new person, they always come with what equates to an ASAM criteria, which is a lot of technical stuff that you don't need to know about. But it basically diagnoses the person, tells you what they got. And I have not seen a person come in to Randy's house in years that's not diagnosed with depression, anxiety.
Yes, sir.
Every person.
Yeah.
Every person. Is it an overdiagnosis?
No.
Probably not.
That's accurate.
Yeah,
But there's a lot of other stuff going on, too.
absolutely.
Right.
But
And most of that is unwittingly. You don't realize it.
absolutely.
Troubles of my own making?
Yeah.
That one?
Well,
Okay.
that's what you got to get to. But first, you got to work through the what'd you call it? Anxious, depressed.
Depression, anxiety.
Yeah.
Depression and anxiety. Every person.
Yeah. It's very real.
Yep.
And it doesn't manifest itself all the same way. We all have different
No.
responses to
No.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing affects people in a blanket fashion, really. We all have our own responses to, what equates to the human condition.
Your life experience, right? Right.
Yeah.
Respond accordingly. Or learn to respond differently, because if I was responding accordingly prior to becoming a recovery, it wouldn't look anything like I respond today.
Well, I had a lot of screaming when I responded before.
You did.
I
You
did.
did. And we listened to every word of it.
Yeah. Now I've learned to listen a lot better. And in the role I have now as a recovery coach at Randy's house, I get an opportunity to put that into effect on a regular basis. See a lot of those new people coming in and where they're at with that and what they might want to do to deal with it in a healthy manner and in a healthy environment, which what Randy's house is.
Yeah, you look, well, I'll just use you as an example here. Ooh.
Well, okay, work with what you got, boss.
No, I've witnessed your education, so has Mike, as you came to a recovery community. It's been phenomenal. Nothing short of a miracle. But you were willing to do the work is why.
Yes, sir. Not right off the bat, but after a while I was.
You know, after a fashion.
I had to be slapped about by life a little bit, realizing that what I was doing wasn't healthy and wasn't helping.
Right.
I
And
was,
that's the example that the new folks need coming into recovery, Somebody who was recalcitrant
Yeah.
In their own words, not mine. And being able to show that depressed, anxious newcomer that you can be okay too. You know, there's hope in that.
When folks see a little 14-pound pug sitting on my lap that's at peace with the world, they have trouble realizing that I came in a blind rage that was ready to strike almost anything that showed up.
Right.
I needed a little bit of work. And you guys had a prescription for that. You said I had to take most of it through my ears, but you had a prescription for that problem.
And they were still working, thank goodness.
Yeah. And I'm grateful that that's part of what Gary brought to the table to us,
Yeah.
was remind us to do that.
Well, and that's where your triage takes place, you know, back to basics. First things first.
Well, and I think, you know, that's what happens in this process. That's what guys like Gary draw off of. They're able to relate their own experience. And let's not forget that Gary's background is in acting.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think that he does not have a command of an audience, go watch him.
Oh, yeah. No, I recognized it.
You know, he absolutely has a command of an audience, and it's because of his background. But that doesn't mean that what he's saying is not real.
True.
And not true.
Absolutely.
Because it's all drawn from life experience.
There's weight and depth to what he has to say.
Absolutely.
Backed by fact.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then that's critical,
Yeah.
especially for somebody new coming in. Well, for anyone who's interested in overcoming an addiction, but the newcomer, especially, can be really impactful. When they hear things and they go, "Oh, I didn't know that." Oh, it's about making new discoveries.
You called it triage, like battlefield triage.
Right.
The first part is to stop the drinking and the immediate fallout from being restless, irritable, and discontent about not drinking. And hopefully we do that well enough that the person wants to stick around long enough to work on those deep-seated problems that are at the root of all that. Alcoholism, the actual drinking part, is just a symptom of a greater underlying problem, and we need to stop that symptom before we can deal with the underlying problem. That's
Yes.
a triage.
The ism.
That's why they call it the first step.
Dealing with the ism.
I wasn't trying to tell you boys, I was trying to help our audience understand what came through to me after a fashion.
Yeah, the ism inside of me. ISM, ism inside of me. What's making me tick? You know, what's making me behave unmanageably?
Yeah. So this battlefield triage of working the steps is, it looks a little bit different early on than it does later on, because we're working at more deep-seated things. A lot of this stuff was really freaking raw and obvious when we first stopped drinking or tried to stop drinking. We got that depression and anxiety. There you go. That stuff going on. My anxiety makes me not be able to vocalize part of what's going on. I'm all stuck in my head trying to say shit, and I can't. Or stuff. Sorry about that.
That's why we've got a button.
Oh,
Thank you, Darren.
click on the button this morning.
I apologize, Jim. That's the boss at the station.
That's what happens when we let my bike get loose.
Sorry, folks. I'm going to quiet down for a minute now.
When?
Did you say when or when?
When?
Oh, okay.
What's that one day?
That's one moment, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm back.
You know, I think one of the things that we don't want to let it get lost, that again, we all heal at our own pace, and some of us.
Yeah. No, I see.
You talking,
Okay.
Scott, not
Okay.
you. You keep
Keep
going,
going,
boss.
keep going.
Some of us get better slowly than others, and some of us never accomplish certain levels of sobriety, and that was something that I had to overcome, and something that I had to learn was that at some point you can continue to strive to be better and do better, but you have to be content with where you're at.
Find your spot.
Find your spot and be content. And that's a big part of what I do today is I just try to be content.
And that can be a task in today's society. But we'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back. 'Cause Darren is giving me the secret signal, so we're going to take a little break
thought
here.
that
We'll
was the
come on
finger.
back. We hope you do too. I like that, content.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been
Yeah.
close to break, I'd have pointed out that your content involves going 90 mile an hour, 23 hours a day.
That's what
Different
works
for
for
some
me.
folks.
That's what works for me. Yeah.
Well, it looks different for you.
Because also part of my content is being okay with the fact that when I walk into a grocery store, if it's a party store or something like that, I almost never get out of there without looking at the cheap vodka and the expensive booze. I look for the Jamesons, and once I find the Jamesons, I look for the
Pop off.
vodka. And I can tell myself all the way to the till that I'm not going to do that. And when I get to the till, I drank a lot longer than you did.
A
lot further into my life.
And
I think some of those things are just ingrained in me, and I'm probably never gonna get past it. Do I want to buy one of those bottles? No. It just confirms to me that I'm crazy as hell.
Yeah, just curious.
Yeah, it's just, I want to know if the price of booze is going up.
In case I was to reconsider.
I wonder if that's being hit by tariffs.
Worldly
Pertinent
concern.
Yeah,
Did you know that
just
Central
concerned for my
Michigan's
fellow man.
Recovery Education Network at Ferris State University works in the community to
Yeah.
help veterans,
Yeah, they come
the
out with
homeless,
alcohol
unhoused,
causes cancer
pregnant,
now.
and recently
And
incarcerated
we
to
got
maintain
tariffs.
recovery.
Community Conversation Day
Visit
up to Ferris, and
Cameron.org
it's the
for more
16th.
information.
Yes.
Is it the 16th or 14th?
What, you got the times?
I'll do
8 to
something.
1:30.
8
He's
to
got
1:30. Thank
Is
you.
it it's at the college?
Yeah.
Is it, everybody's going there in person?
Coming up.
Here we go.
It's a WGLM Weather Center update.
Slight chance of
30
rain
seconds.
showers for your Sunday. Otherwise, mostly cloudy and breezy. with
I
a
forgot
high
I
of
threw that
63.
weather in there.
Rain showers
Did I say the
likely for this
16th?
evening and overnight.
You did.
We'll
Okay.
have gusty
Yeah.
winds and a low around 46. 50-50 shot for rain showers on Monday with a high near 62. That chance continues on Monday night with a low around 48. More rain on
called
Tuesday
continuing
with a high near
conversation,
66. Partly
Community
cloudy skies
conversation.
on
Community
Tuesday night
conversation.
with a low
I'm here
around
for
46.
some of that.
Now, more of the music you love on WGLM.
Hey, Scott, Mike, and Mike back here with you on Continuous Miracle. We're glad you're here. We're glad we're here.
I am.
Me too.
We were talking a little bit during break here. Wanted to make mention. We get an upcoming event. Continuous Miracle will be going on the road again, and we will be up at Ferris State University. And for Mike, you want to inform the
On the
audience?
16th of May, there's Community Conversation Day from 8 to 11:30?
1:30.
1:30, 8 to 1:30 at the Eisner Center. A person can register ahead of time, or needs to register ahead of time.
Cameron.
It's put on by the Cameron.
Cameron.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity like a symposium, but they have they called it a different name, but it's a free exchange of ideas about recovery.
Right, and there'll be I don't know how many speakers, but it'll be an all-day event.
Yeah.
And if you want to come on up, it's open to the public, correct?
Yes, sir. Just need to register ahead of time.
Can we register on the Cameron website?
Yes.
Okay. That's CEMREN.com, and you can register on that website to come on up to the community conversation about recovery and addiction.
The interesting thing they told me is not only is it speakers, they want to hear from the people that are there too.
Yeah, there'll be question and answers, and there'll be a free exchange of ideas,
There you go.
which is actually a wonderful thing. If you've never participated in it, then you're all reaching for a common goal, and it makes for a pretty good day. So Mike, you were telling me you were going to get up there too. Huh?
Yeah, you know, it's funny that people. Jessica Wimmer is. I'm not sure what her role is at.
She's pretty damn
Human
young
dynamo.
lady.
But she's she's pretty important, and it's funny to see people like her becoming involved in the recovery community, and we've watched all this unfold.
Yeah, we
Over-
have seen it all from seat
Front
to
row seat.
where we're at now.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
to see what the Greenville community was when back when I showed up, and to see what it is today, is absolutely a miracle.
A continuous miracle.
Absolutely. We have resources here in Montcalm County that
And surrounding counties.
do not. Yeah, but Montcalm is very, very blessed
Yeah.
in resources. We have a ton of resources here, and it didn't used to be that way.
And what we've watched develop from where my perch is the connectivity of all of these resources.
Yes,
So maybe this organization can't be of assistance, but they sure know who can be.
you betcha.
And they can guide and direct folks to the proper places to get that assistance. You know, and that wasn't available before, and it is here now. So,
Yeah,
and it's been a miracle to watch the whole thing grow about you.
Yeah.
You know?
yeah, because we're surrounded by areas that who some of them have the resources, but some of them do not. I
Right.
mean, if you cross over the county line into Ionia County, they
Dry
don't.
patch.
They don't. Yeah, they don't have the amount of resources. Gratiot doesn't. Even Isabella, which is has a lot higher
Population. rate.
population than
Sure.
than we do, they don't have the resources.
Or like I live up to Newaygo, it's the same thing. The resources are less there than here.
Yep.
But that has a lot to do with what Mr. Cronick does along with you to help make those people aware of what those resources are to.
Yeah, you've got I'll tell you what you have in Newaygo though. You have a director of the mental health system up there in Carol Mills.
What an awesome lady.
Yeah, absolutely, and very pro recovery. So they do a lot with what they have.
Okay.
They really do. So Newaygo's definitely. I think the population's a little bit less in Newaygo, and I think their population's around 56 or 58,000. You can check it on Google, whatever. And then we're like 64. So there's only like a 10,000 person difference. But
But this gal is instituting some programs up there where
she
it's
absolutely
making
is.
an impact. right?
Absolutely is.
Okay. And that's the outreach that has to take place. Yeah, there's drivers behind all this, and that means drivers meaning people putting a lot of time and energy into making resources available for the next suffering addict or
Yep.
person out there who needs help.
And our local, let's not forget our local CMH that does an incredible amount for the SUD community, even though that's not really their primary purpose.
Sure.
But they do a ton. They do a ton for the recovery community, and always have. They're always instrumental in throwing a successful symposium.
Right.
They're always right there supporting it. So we're lucky to have the amount of resources that we have. We really are.
Be at the right place at the right time.
There you go. I wasn't trying to say that community health wasn't active up in Newaygo County. I was talking about the other resources available. It's just not quite like that. up there.
Yeah. No,
One of your recovery houses that I work out of is there in Newaygo, and I refer the people to different services, and I know pretty much what's there different from here.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and anyway.
So you can draw a distinction based on experience.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But something as simple as here in Greenville, because of the MAC, they have somewheres around 30 meetings a week.
Sure.
That's pretty big in a little smaller community like this. At that one building, there's 30 meetings a week at least, maybe closer to 40. I just haven't been involved that much lately to know. And that's not the case in the other rural areas around here.
Yeah, and transportation is always an issue when you get into a rural area. So, and I know there's been some of that's been addressed here.
I don't know if it's been addressed or not, but it's certainly being talked about.
I see the buses run. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's got to be helpful if you need a ride.
Well, yeah, it's $3 on and
Okay.
$3 on your way back too. So,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah.
But, okay.
You're talking about the local dial-a-ride.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Some of the, through the IMFAN, some of those transportation issues had been addressed for some different meeting gathering things. At times, IMFAN had helped. I know that rides were available at times to go out to 419, which is, I don't know, 10, 12 miles outside of Greenville. And that started last year sometime when they started up.
But that's a resource that wasn't available prior to.
Correct, that's all I'm pointing out.
And he's talking about resource rich. You know, there's help available.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still need a lot of work on the transportation piece.
In any rural community,
Absolutely.
we're going to have transportation issues that need to somehow or another be brought to the forefront.
Well, maybe we're doing that right here. Folks, you got something to help us with
I was going to say, you know,
I wasn't
anybody
gonna
out there that's
mention
got
that.
any ideas or anything,
Yeah.
let us know.
And Cameron, that's part of what they address is the different issues like that. And they have breakout groups in some of their meetings that deal with transportation, housing, or those other things we're talking about.
Right.
We at one time, we owned vans and stuff, and it was so expensive to keep a vehicle on the road. Just the maintenance alone and the gas. That's not counting the insurance. Your liability gets really jacked up.
Transporting people,
Yep, when you're
yeah.
transporting people. So it's just horribly expensive to transport,
Which is why it's an issue.
which is exactly why it's an issue.
Right.
It would be, it would probably become one of the number one consumers of money coming in. And right now we're living in a time where, we're not sure what the next day is going to bring.
Yeah, things are a little unsettled right now.
Yeah. So to implement another transportation program probably doesn't make sense right now, because you don't know about funding. But
Some of that stuff's what made virtual attendance real popular in a lot of cases.
True.
Yeah.
During the COVID and virtual meetings and things of that nature where you could get on, and well, you still can, right?
Yep.
They have virtual meetings now. Still.
yeah.
But it's not the same as in person. And for what we're doing, in recovery, what we're doing at the pathway, which is AANA sort of stuff, is you almost need to make personal contact with the person to get anywhere.
Well, seclusion is one of the number one offenders
Yeah, isolation,
for
no good.
addicts.
Seclusion and isolation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what we do. That's where it takes us. And so you've got to address that. I mean, I believe that it's nearly impossible to recover without human contact. We all need humans.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I certainly
Connectivity.
couldn't do this without other people.
Connectivity.
yep.
Yeah.
The connectivity part of it. Tough to work the steps quickly and often with someone if you're not right there where they're at.
Sure.
Yeah. On the phone with somebody after they've already done that, I can remind them what to do. This guy does it to me once in a while. He said, "Did you write anything down?" Little questions like that. I can do that after I've shown somebody or helped somebody with the process. But to initiate the process, I need to be there in person.
Yeah.
I found that to be true for most people in recovery.
Well, I think that's one of the things that makes you effective as a coach.
Okay.
You make sure that you're present.
Yeah. Well, I'm reminded, I make like a dozen meetings a week, which isn't easy for most people, but for me it falls right in fairly easy. But that's a reminder where I'm at and what I'm doing. I'm right there to try to help, not in some office a long ways away. I'm there with boots on the ground because I don't know any other way.
Right.
Well, Darren does.
Darren knows a lot.
Yeah.
Does that dog really weigh 14 pounds?
Well, yeah. You ought to see the way she eats. We got our executive producer on the floor, folks. Mia's right there. She ain't snoring yet, but she's keeping an eye on things.
Well, keep talking. You'll put her to sleep.
Okay. It worked for the rest of you.
I know.
Jonesy, the cat's actually bigger than her.
Yeah.
He's about 20 pounds.
Yeah, it's a 20-pound cat and a 14-pound dog. Thanks, God. This is what we're working with.
God gives
Right
us
here on
gifts.
Continuous Miracle.
Oh.
But Mike's right is about the connectivity. And what I realized early in recovery for myself was I'd look across the table at my sponsor and realize that he was taking time out of his life to invest in my life for no apparent reason.
Is that how you pass it on?
That's what he was attempting to do. And
Okay.
and, yeah, but it didn't hit home with me until, you have that experience. So the importance of being with another human, quickly
Human
and
contact.
often, yeah, is critical for early recovery. I mean, and I don't think that, a lot of folks just aren't aware of it. It doesn't matter what I think. They just aren't.
Yep.
And when you experience it, it's quite phenomenal. It's quite phenomenal. And it's a linchpin. There's a lot of turning points in recovery, and I think, especially early recovery, to realize this human being's taking time out of their life and investing it in my well-being for no apparent reason is a pretty astonishing thing. And folks do that out of service and love for their fellow man.
I'm getting way behind on up north on my yard duties and stuff like that because of this being busy with my fellow man, but it's okay.
Well, those trees will grow without your permission.
And
So
the
will
lawn and the
grass.
leaves will all do that.
That stuff's going to do what it's doing.
Yep.
Well, hell, Mike told me this morning he went on an adventure and found a tick. So, he's pretty busy.
Oh, yeah, well, the bloodsucker was on my neck this morning, folks. That's about all there is to that.
All I can do is say it doesn't belong there. I know that much.
But I had a conversation with a cowboy cattleman about what to do with ticks, so I learned a lot today, folks.
This is where it goes sometimes. Apple cider.
Apple cider vinegar in the watering trough for the cattle keeps the ticks off them, I'm told this morning.
These are the things we learn in recovery.
Mike's here with his mouth wide
He
open
can't
going,
believe it.
really?
He's just absorbing all this.
I'm glad you made a trip
Are
into
you all right,
Greenville.
Mike?
I'm actually thinking this is where it's gone.
Folks, I can do as I darn well
Hey,
please.
we're
'cause
not drinking.
I'm not drinking.
That's right.
And it looks like this some days.
Some days. They warned us some days would be better than others.
Well, this is a good one for me.
So far.
Yeah,
It's early.
I got the tick off before it drew much blood.
You are winning, sir.
There you go.
What about you, Mike? You got here. You got here.
You don't
want
to hear my tick story.
Yeah.
Not on the farm. I know. I know that's where they feast out there.
I'd never had a tick at the farm.
No.
The
You
only
gotta
time-
come up to Nuevo.
The only
No, you
time
need
I
to
ever
go
had
to
a
the
tick
farm.
was mushrooming.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those are up this time of year too. Oh yeah, mushrooms. I got a bunch of them I found there the other day. Probably can go get them this afternoon. Things I get to do.
Yeah, we got Jim E on next week.
Yeah. Jim's on next week with us, coming out of straight out of Big Rapids.
Yes, sir.
And he's got quite a story he wants to share with us too. And I'm familiar with Jim. Mike is. Come on back and join us next week, and he can tell you about his experience, strength and hope. Pretty phenomenal, but yet another continuous miracle to what he's doing today with his life. And we're sure you'll be interested in that. It's fascinating when you see these miracles materialize in real time. And that's why we have these folks on, but that's what's going on out here in the recovery community. A day at a time, my friend, a day at a time. Well, Darren's up here, he's letting me know it's time to go, and that means we'll be back here next week with you at 11 o'clock here on 106.3, Continuous Miracle.
Just right.
I didn't get
Thank
the
you.
website in.
Thank you for showing up. That was a lot of fun.
I didn't get the website in.
I would have told you about that, but
I wish you would have.
I'm busy, Gavin.
Damn it. Kicked my own ass. I'm sure somebody will tell me.